Welcome to Spoken Love Podcast, where words don't just tell stories, they breathe them. Here we strip love and life down to the bone, unfolding our truths in rhythm and rhyme, through dialogue that's part poetry, part confession, and all real. So lean in, let the silence between the verses speak, and join me for a conversation wrapped in poetry. This is Spoken Love Podcast. This episode, we're taking a little bit of a break from the topic of boundaries that we have explored in our prior episodes and going down a different path. I actually want to explore a very profound topic that many of us are probably struggling with if you are single and dating right now. I think we all feel like we are qualified, but are we truly prepared for what we are seeking in relationships today? There's definitely a capacity crisis that is going on in modern day dating. Many people are qualified for the relationship they're praying for, but they're not prepared to steward it. I think modern dating isn't suffering from a lack of options as much as it's suffering from a lack of emotional, mental, and practical capacity. The core question that I want to explore this episode is, are you asking God for a relationship that your current lifestyle doesn't have room to sustain? This episode draws from one of the central ideas grounded in the book that we have been exploring this season, Boundaries. And that's taking responsibility for your own life. But before we ask someone to join our life, we have to ask if we're stewarding the life we already have. I would say, lately I've been thinking about something. Almost everyone I know says they want a healthy relationship. But when you really look at their lives, they're exhausted, they're overcommitted, emotionally unavailable, their calendars are full, me included, and their priorities are likely scattered. And what made me wonder, are we praying for relationships that we don't actually have the capacity to maintain? What's the difference between being qualified for love and actually being prepared for it? So let's unpack some of that. I think we confuse attraction with preparation, right? A lot of us look at our lives and we're like, I'm at a stage 40 plus, I'm successful in my career. I think I'm attractive, right? Financially stable. I'm in a good place in my spiritual walk. And I still struggle with capacity. Now, me personally, I think I'm pretty intentional about carving out space and time to dedicate to dating. But on the opposite side of it, I think the men that I am running into, or rather truly are struggling to balance their roles and responsibilities in their day-to-day lives and the desire to find a lifetime partner. I think one of the biggest issues, though, isn't the commitment part of it. I think with people juggling careers, parenting, businesses, aging parents, fitness goals, even their friendships, it can also complicate dating where it starts to feel overwhelming, right? And from a female perspective, for me, my daily struggles is mostly career and motherhood, right? Taking care of the little human on a day-to-day basis, still showing up and striving to be the best that I can be in my career, and then still desiring to be with somebody, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. And that type of commitment requires me to be attentive, intentional, right? Because I don't necessarily go out, I'm not the social butterfly, right? I have to resort to online dating where I have access to options where I can vet out potential partners. But in the online dating space, it becomes this hamster wheel of potential candidates that people are burnt out. You're experiencing a lot of underlying frustrations. People aren't as attentive. You might send a message today and not get a response for a couple of days. By that time, you've already swiped right on 2, 3 other people, right? So actually locking in with someone and giving them a fighting chance to get to know them becomes very complex with the dating environment today, where we're not necessarily having interactions on a day-to-day basis. You're not necessarily crossing paths at the gym or crossing paths on the job, or things that you normally would be doing every single day, where you actually get exposed to, that potential person, but rather relying on a online profile where people, let's be honest, send representatives, right? They paint the picture of the best parts of themselves, but very slow to reveal the flawed pieces of themselves. And it's when you're looking for a lifetime partner, it's not the glamorous stuff that you're looking for, right? Those things are great, but it's really the flaws that you have to hone in on, because you're never going to find anyone perfect. So it's based on whose flaws are you willing to tolerate for the rest of your life. And I think that's when you can really get a clearer picture of what you're looking for, if you are dating with the intention of finding someone, your forever person. But again, the debate still goes back to, can someone genuinely want love while unintentionally making it possible for love to grow? If you got all these things on your plate, you're thriving to do well, you're thriving to show up for your friends, your family, your community, what does that leave for your potential partner? Do you have the capacity for daily conversations, getting to know you conversations, or FaceTime? Do you have the capacity to meet more than once a week? Do you have the capacity to invest in one person when you have 15, 20 men or women in your inbox to choose from? What does that look like? Are we truly prioritizing what we say we want? And this is where we can kind of tie back into the concept of boundaries. Right? Your calendar often reflects your priorities. My whole life is built into my calendar, like real talk. And if someone says they want marriage, but they never make time to date, what message are their actions communicating? And this is where my frustration comes in. You say you want a life partner, you say you want marriage, but I don't hear from you for a few days. Or, we're only seeing each other, a couple times a month. At this point, you're either a pen pal or an acquaintance, right? I see my coworkers more than I do the people that I'm dating. Hence the problem, right? And then you have people that don't even respect your time, where they're canceling on you, or they're constantly busy or emotionally unavailable, or not even really intentional, right? Their profile says they're looking for something meaningful, but their actions are saying otherwise. So I say to the audience, for anyone that this message resonates with, what are you willing to sacrifice to create space for healthy love? What in your day-to-day life today do you feel like you are willing to compromise or take a little bit of your time and attention away from, and utilize that extra capacity to pour into really getting to know somebody? Preparation isn't just adding something. Sometimes it's removing something. Right? So when you look at your day-to-day responsibilities, for most people, work is the major priority, right? Let's say you're dating someone and your schedules don't necessarily align, right? You have to take a step back and figure out, okay, well, I have to work, but how do I incorporate this person into my day-to-day? What do those check-ins look like? What are their love language, right? How do I meet them where they're at? Are there someone that needs to be validated or checked in with? Could there be different compromises, maybe talking earlier in the morning or later in the evening? Or if you can't really talk during the week, be more intentional about seeing each other on the weekends, right? And maximizing that time together. Then there's also, letting it be known upfront what your intentions are. I think those conversations and those expectations aren't happening soon enough. In my personal experience, I've been told that my initial interactions sound like an interview. And in all reality, it is. It should feel like an interview because I'm not here to waste any time. And if I have qualifying questions, if there's certain criteria that I know that my person needs to meet those criteria before we even get to the getting to know you phase, why am I going to sit here and ask you how your day was? Right? It's nice to be able to say that to someone or feel like someone is interested in how your day is, but that's small talk. I can ask you about your day if I feel like this is going somewhere, but if it's not, you're still a stranger, right? And in all due respect, there's no point sitting in a chat box going back and forth about what's the weather or what you have planned for the weekend. For me, I want to know, do you have children? I have a desire to create a blended family. If you don't have children, there's nothing to talk about. Or if your children are in another state or you're not an active parent, well, I can't meet that goal of a blended family if you're not taking care of the family that you already have. Right? Or other things such as financial goals. I am 40 plus. Right? So at this stage in my life, I have built a financial foundation for myself and my son that I not only want to maintain, but I want to build a relationship I want to start a relationship where we can build something together, right? So that we can continue on that trajectory of generational wealth, right? So what do you bring to the table? That type of question is not, oh, how can you provide financially for me? Is how can we build together? What are we working towards? How can we steward the resources that God has gifted us with? Having those type of conversations and dialogue early is important, and people not to be so triggered, by some of those questions, I think would make the dating experience a lot better at least for me. I can't speak for the masses, but I think that would definitely create a major impact if people are just open to having those conversations up front and being okay to say, I don't meet those criteria and walking away amicably, right? In closing, I want to leave everyone with this thought. Maybe you are qualified. Maybe you're an amazing person and maybe you genuinely desire healthy love. But preparation asks a different question. If the person you've been praying for walked into your life tomorrow, would your schedule, your habits, your emotional health, your finances, and your priorities make room for them? Or would they constantly compete with everything else you've already committed yourself to? Because healthy relationships don't just require chemistry. They truly require capacity. This week, I challenge each of you to ask yourself, am I emotionally available? Do I have time to invest in a relationship? And what in my life right now is consuming most of my energy? God may be preparing the blessing, but He's also preparing your capacity to sustain it. And until next time, protect your peace, honor your priorities, and remember, being qualified opens the door, but being prepared helps you keep it. And just like that, another chapter closes. But the story of love and life never really ends. If these words moved you, share them, carry them, live them out loud. Follow Spoken Love Podcast wherever you listen, and meet me here again where the dialogue stays candid and the poetry stays alive.